William Samoei Ruto's speech today in South Africa was spot on. And I am so glad, and I rarely agree with William Ruto, but on this one, I say he's realized something that most of us political observers have been saying in the wake of these frequent foreign visits. And I want us to listen to that video by William Ruto saying about vile African presidents wanabeba ufara. Well, let me say that for Africa to realize its potential, we must overcome the temptation to overdepend on the white man. Because even for this country to get independence, we had to get rid of the white man. So if we are to realize some quality development in the region, it is about time we accept that, number one, we must get rid of over-independence on the white man. William Ruto is asking why one African president should invite all the 54 heads of states in Africa in one session, in some sort of baraza, instead of having structured talks and structured agreements, because there seems to be evading commitment. This is a direct stab on Joe Biden, who in December convened African Leaders Summit. I think Putin is also planning some Russia-African summit on the same. And it seems there is a scramble for this baby known as Africa that William Ruto is talking about here.
So what am I saying? For example, let me give you another example. We have been to US Africa. We have been to some other engagement with other countries. Now we have been invited for Russia-Africa summit. We have made a decision, very respectfully as heads of state in Africa, that any engagement with other partners must be an engagement of equals. And for it to be meaningful, if we are going to meet the president of a country, we have organized ourselves that the Troika is going to represent Africa. The chair, the current chair, the past chair, the chair that is coming, and the heads of our regional economic commissions, about 6-7 people. But what happens continuously? When others want to engage with us, they don't want to deal with the Troika. They want to invite 50 heads of state. So we go to a meeting, just explain to me what kind of outcome you expect where 50 heads of state are sitting. Everybody is asked to speak to 1.5 minutes. You speak to one for 1.5 minutes. What kind of engagement are you going to get? You're going to get nothing, right? The best that you get is photographs. That's it. Precisely. You get these photographs. They normally line us up somewhere, crowd of 50 heads of state. And that's all we come home with, because there isn't time to engage any serious country that wants to engage with Africa, must respect first our architecture. If we have said we are going to be represented by the Troika, why are you inviting 50 people unless you want to sabotage the whole discussion? And if you can't respect our own rules, it is a sign of lack of goodwill. I mean, you must, so that when we engage, if we have a smaller group of 5 people, then you can have a meaningful conversation. And we can have a meeting of equals. But here you are, you represent 200-300 million people. You have a guy here who represents 10 people. You have another guy who represents 10 million people. Then that conversation becomes, and some of the time, the most unfortunate thing is that some of the people who invite us to these meetings tell us, if you don't come, there will be consequences. So, all of us are forced to go to a meeting that has no meaningful outcome because of blackmail. This is not right, good people. This is not okay. So, I have written to my brother who was here the other day that this time round, any other invitation, it must respect the rules of our continent. We have said any meaningful engagement.
Now, I want to agree with William Ruto. There is no way one person, and I remember analyzing when that US, there are two events. One is the first, I think, burial of Queen Elizabeth, if I'm not wrong. African presidents were ferried to the venue with buses, And then just over last weekend, when there was King Charles' coronation, William Ruto skipped an East African summit that was going on in Burundi to attend that coronation in UK. But even apart from that, you look at how it will be. It is very true that African presidents normally go to Europe for tour. They just go there for tours. The only thing they come back with here are just the photos. I am one person that and when you talk to people in the diplomatic space, they will tell you that it is more effective when the European leaders from Europe makes a state visit to Kenya and signs MOU here than us going there. When we go out, we normally look like beggars. That is probably what it is. I want to try to break down that William Ruto speech, but before I look at that, I want to still request you, as we finish towards the last lap of Mzee Ruben's fundraiser that we're finishing tomorrow on Thursday morning, kindly, those who had pledged, and we are just remaining with a deficit of 20,000. I believe that when we continue and we push, we are going to realize it. So kindly, let's try to push. The Mzee there is suffering hemorrhoids, is currently in Mukumu Hospital, due for a surgery that is costing 67,000. So we're doing a fundraiser here to help the family offset that bill so that Mzee can undergo the surgery. And now I can confirm that the surgery will be done, I think, on Friday. Let me say this. Africa must utilize its resources here to stop stooping low to the European nations. It is not that we don't have our resources here. For example, Zimbabwe is saying, they passed a resolution, I think it was Mozambique or Zimbabwe. It was Zimbabwe. That they want to stop export of lithium to Europe so that they can make their own batteries here. They can process that lithium into batteries and sell those batteries to just in the African continent. In the African continent, we have a blessing of having a young population that is very energetic and can offer the labor that is needed. Number two, we are exporting our skilled labor to Europe to develop the European nations. It is because, and you cannot blame them, it is because of our situation back home is not bearing. Look at the way things are. If you look at the kind of income, the salary, and there are a lot of challenges affecting even now what the doctors are going through, many people are looking at the international market. What is happening here is we have not utilized our resources, and we are then still caged into foreigners or the European nation coming here to exploit the resources, export them there, process, then come back and sell here as a final project and as a final product, and again at a higher price. So Africa must work out on how we can utilize our resources. But number two, to President William Ruto and the African nation and the African continent, let us make our democracy work. Because political infiltration by the European nation is actually killing the ambition, is actually killing the prosperity of this continent. I still don't accept, I still don't understand why we have a budget. In our last general election, there was some 18, I think it was 18 million that that US gave to IBC in form of a grant, and the outgoing ambassador confirmed that they supported. They were largely blamed, and the European Western powers were largely blamed for the outcome of our election by then. So because we've kind of allowed them to micromanage our election, that is why when we get to power, we seem to have a lot of leaning governments in Africa, led by here, Kenya. Leading governments in Africa. I was following, and I've been following these two stories. One is the DRC war and the South Sudan. For the South Sudan, the two warring factions, I still don't understand why must they meet in Dubai. We have well-secured hotel here in Nairobi, and even here in Africa, and even in East Africa. But these two warring factions in Sudan are being airlifted for talks to be held in Dubai. The same with that of DRC. And if you remember in January, the meeting that President Uhuru Kenyatta was supposed to attend in Dubai, and there were dramas here where, the details were a bit interfered with and he declined. Why must we airlift this group to go and talk in Dubai while here in Africa? It's because we have glorified the Europe. To William Ruto here, this is a very clear line, and we've actually been warning that one of the challenges that we face as a country is we have a leaning government to the Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF and the World Banks of our day. We must stop this unnecessary leaning, because that is what is killing us. Appetite for debts that are used as traps. The reason why, like what William Ruto is saying there, that some of these people inviting you are even telling you that if you don't attend, there will be consequences. What are those consequences? And these debts are not just in form of what is given to the government, the principles that is being paid by interest. Even these grants are debts. Yeah. Even these grants, let's say the truth, even the grants that are being put, World Bank is doing a lot of grants in these development projects. Majority of these dams are done by Europe, financiers. These debts that we are getting ourselves into, for example, a situation where I want to use a very wrong example. Here in Nairobi, there is a project by UK, I think on constructing some green space, some green offices or something. Okay, they're running here a project here in Nairobi. There is also an arrangement of the SGR that is going on, that is being funded by China. Some of these are actually at the center of our economy. And so we are caged. If you don't pay, probably because we've given you a loan, we may not tolerate, you may not restructure loans. If you don't pay, we are supporting some malaria project in some NGO. We've given some grant under USAID. The USAID is going to, those are kind of things that President is talking about. So why can't we solve? If we have our resources here and we use our resources well, we can avoid the appetite for these debts, because these debts are being used against us. But lastly, let's not stop at the talking. Ruto must avoid unnecessary trips to Europe with bloated delegation. There is no difference between Biden summoning the over 50 heads of states in Africa, and as he says, with really non-structured talks, just barazas and people taking photos and being hosted for dinners. And it's true, by the way. President Ruto spoke about, Ruto was hosted for some dinner, alafu anapewa sijui some belt, hitting some stock exchange. And I was like, what are these optics for? We've gone for a lot of optics. There is no difference between Biden and him, who is carrying an 85 people delegation to a COP27 conference in Egypt. And surely they're not going to be. Even the recent trip, I saw Gatundu North Member of Parliament was part of President Ruto's delegation. The trip that he just held, this one, I think he was in Israel, UK, and where? In Netherlands. I still don't even understand why the First Lady is going, maybe. The baby is a spouse, probably. That will be taken too far. But President himself has been carrying a very big delegation, and probably, I think he should just go with respective minister officials. I have seen where photos shared where the first, you see the ambassador is there, the CS Alfred Mutua is there, the one for agriculture is there, and the one for the treasury is there. All those like 5 CSs are there. But in terms of, and when a CS goes, the profile of a CS is different with that of a PS. So CS anaenda kulala some 6-star or 5-star, spending a lot of money, and you realize that there is no deal MOU signed between that government and treasury. So even President Ruto also carries bloated delegation. And that is why, in the spirit of structured MOUs and dialogue and summons, we must also walk the talk by making sure that we don't entertain such kind of action. But again, I really salute President Ruto for that speech, because that is the truth, that Africa is being used, and Africa must rise from that madness. That's my take.